guys, my name's Mark Levine and welcome back to the Creative Venture podcast. This is the podcast where I'm talking to successful and aspiring creatives to better understand how they've achieved their success. Today, I'm changing things up with a bit of a mini episode on motivation and keeping going as we find ourselves in yet another lockdown in the UK. When you're actually achieving your goals time and time again, that's going to set off a response in your brain. And once you've done that, rinse and repeat, it's going to make you more likely to achieve bigger and harder things. It sounds really simple, but I genuinely feel that this is the key to getting out of feeling stuck. Happy February, everyone. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who's been or is a new listener to the podcast. We've been growing our listenership internationally now. So we've got listeners in Europe, the US and Canada, which is really exciting. So thank you so much if you are listening over there, and hello to you. And thank you to all of the people that have followed, from episode 1. And it's strange because although I haven't spoken to you guys for a while, actually the numbers just continue to grow on the old episodes. So, it's really cool. I'm currently working hard on a new series with some very exciting guests. And yeah, I have been away for a little while. I had a very busy few months towards the end of the year. I'm just really grateful for any work I can get, really, considering the COVID situation, because that's obviously made things a lot more complicated. And then I guess, when I think about my January, everything kind of fell on its head, both with home and work. Initially I wanted to do a mini episode wishing everyone a happy new year. But I didn't want to gloss over the fact that here in the UK, a lot of people didn't get to make it home to see family for Christmas, and then we find ourselves in yet another lockdown straight after, welcoming in a new year of just tighter restrictions. I really love the new year, actually. It's a great time to reflect and reconsider. But for me, January was definitely one of the most challenging months of the whole lockdown. I consume a lot of content where people are seeing lockdown as an opportunity for creativity, entrepreneurship, and personal development. But I don't really want to use this podcast to talk about how amazing it is when many of the people that I know, both professionally and my friends, are struggling. I think up until this point, I decided not really to focus too much on the COVID situation. And, I think I stand by that. Any extra ounce of positivity and inspiration is worth its weight in gold right now. But I can't ignore, the people that I've spoken to on the podcast and peers, in live music, the event space, the theatre space, fellow creatives who may not have worked until sort of March time and whose industry is just completely shut down. And it's just been a real test of their financial savviness and their emotional strength and everything else. So I feel really fortunate that I've been able to continue my work, even having like a busy period like December. But, I really don't take that for granted. And I think also the point I'm trying to make here is that if you are having a hard time, that's totally cool. Many of my peers have, I've had, and that is totally cool. So what I thought I'd do with this episode is just talk a little bit about some of my observations from last month, struggles that my friends have had, and also how I started to get back up some momentum after the new year, and a few kind of tips and strategies for how to just deal when you're in this sort of extreme lack of motivation, procrastination mode. Because it's just a strange thing at the moment. I mean, we're just in this endless loop of time. We don't really know when everything's going to be over. So I think, when you do have these moments of, as I say, extreme lack of motivation and procrastination, it can be a really good time to do an audit. I think as creatives, we tend to have a lot of ideas and sometimes forget why we've started a project or embark on too many projects at once. So, it's a really great opportunity to consider what is it you want to do? And also when you look at what you are doing, what is the why behind your doing it? What is this project ultimately leading you to? So let's say we have a project in mind, you want to write a song or produce a new piece of content, but, you can't seem to find the time to do it. We procrastinate or we start and then just get frustrated and bored and don't continue. Or we spend too much time in addictive behavior binging on Netflix or YouTube or something like that, which is easy in this particular time period. So what can we do about those situations? Because they are difficult. And I think when you're trying to start something, for example, that's also very hard. So a lot of this, I think, can be applied to, trying to level up, trying to do something new, start a new project, learn a new skill, but also about when you're sort of, feeling like you've got that fairly intense lack of motivation. And I think it's really easy that when you're at a point where like not much is going on and you don't feel so great, you can turn to social media and see peers, friends, people that you admire seemingly unaffected or even succeeding in these times, And when I've spoken to my friends who have been in that situation, I suppose for them it's really triggered this kind of feeling of shame, which is unfair and it's dangerous. I think firstly you need to be really careful of who you follow on social. Be particularly mindful of what kind of content you consume and how that makes you feel. I used to follow a lot of inspirational entrepreneur and success mindset accounts, but they peddle this real narrative of burning the candle at both ends and promoting the hustle and the grind and putting you in this really aggressive macho energy, which no doubt is empowering for some. But I think a lot of people aren't being served by this. They're becoming increasingly unhealthy, tired, and unsatisfied with their lives. And we hear more and more about this. And I think if you're listening as a creative, the most important thing that you need to focus on is self-awareness, strategies that work for you. You just need a toolkit and a game plan. So if we think about, I don't know, what might be in your toolkit, things like meditation, for example. Meditation is a big one for me. CBT, thinking less cognitively, going to the gym, going for a run, whatever it is that works for you. But having those things that you can pull out of the bag, because I think we need to connect with those more than ever at a time like this. They are the most valuable at the times we want to do them the least, right? And then in terms of a game plan, just going back to what I said previously, you're thinking about what you want to do. Have a goal in mind and try and make it specific. So for me, when it comes to goal setting, I like to do it in the analog domain, not in a detached way, using a phone or using a computer. I want to get a piece of paper out or a notebook and I want to, write down that goal. And setting a goal really helps hold yourself accountable. You should think about how long it's going to take you to achieve these goals. If it's something like setting up a business, for example, that's not something that's going to happen overnight. That might be a goal for a year from now or 5 years from now. And I think when you have those big goals, you can work backwards from it. And then that defines the actions that you need to implement in the preceding months, days, weeks. It's really important to have an idea of how long something is going to take. So for the podcast, for example, I overestimate the amount of time I need, which allows me to run over if something goes wrong or I get pulled away by work or something like that. And also by setting those smaller daily tasks, you can kind of predict issues before they arise. If you run over on one day, that spills into the next day, which spills into the next day, which spills into your deadline. So, you can kind of see a few days ahead, hopefully, that something needs a bit of tweaking. But, I'm sure it's all very well. Many of us have goals and targets, and particularly at a time like in lockdown, things are just a bit overwhelming. So what do we do then? I've actually thought a lot about this. And if you do find yourself struggling with procrastination, lack of motivation, it's really important for you to set goals that are achievable. So you set the bar low in the beginning. Make easy, achievable, sustainable goals, sustainable targets. So you can get into that positive headspace of feeling good because you're succeeding, you're achieving those goals, if that makes sense, right? That's going to push you forward. That's going to pick up your momentum. And then you can try harder and harder and harder things as and when you've got that momentum. especially if you're not feeling great with everything, that's going on right now. Setting a target that's too hard and too complicated, and you don't achieve this thing that you want to reach, you fail, for want of a better word. That's not going to put you in a headspace where you're going to want to do it again. You're going to want to take on a challenge and be like, right, okay, I'm going to have another crack at it. The same can be said for setting the right amount of time. You've got to make sure that you allocate yourself an appropriate amount of time to get the task done. Again, failing won't put you in a great headspace to do it again. You need to factor in your skill level, the resources that you have at this particular time. If you're doing something on your own versus with a team of people, you need more time. So, it's not your fault if you don't achieve this particular thing by the deadline, but you need to factor in how long it's going to take, right? And I think the brain chemistry is really important here. If we think about how we can best set ourselves up for success and feel good about the outcome, right? It's all about the brain chemistry. So what do I mean by this? When you're actually achieving your goals time and time and time again, that's going to set off a response in your brain. You're going to get a dopamine rush, right? And once you've done that several times, rinse and repeat, it's going to make you more likely to achieve bigger and harder things. It sounds really simple, but I genuinely feel that this is the key to getting out of feeling stuck. So let's build on this idea, right? I'll explain what I mean in a little more detail. We set a simple, achievable daily goal. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to make my bed, right? It doesn't require much effort. Make it really, really simple, okay? And what's nice is that when you have a process around your tasks, you can acknowledge that they're complete and achieved. You've got to be ticking these things off, striking them through. Don't just use the reminders app on your phone, press the button, and it disappears into oblivion. Actually acknowledge, today I did this thing, all right? So how can we build on that? Well, repetition and consistency, right? We'll set those achievable goals and those achievable targets. And if we achieve them day after day after day, now I believe they say it takes a minimum of 30 days to form a habit and around 66 days for it to become automatic, right? You can hear Tanya Collins talk a little bit about this in episode 7 of the podcast and how it relates to your body's physiology as well, which is really exciting. So ticking off the goal is really important. If you, for 2 months, consistently put things on a list and you do those things and you feel into the success, you know what that feels like inside when you've completed them. You're training not only your mind with a habit, right? But you're going to get that dopamine rush, that feel-good chemical, the chemical of success, if you like, right? And I think that's really the secret to forming the habit of achieving your goals. If you use this method and succeed with simple things, then you can grow it at your own pace and take on bigger and more ambitious tasks. But I think it's important to mention that, you should really start small, okay? Or start at least where you feel it's appropriate for yourself without any judgment, remembering that you're on your own journey as an individual. Okay, don't compare yourself against, oh, well, my peers can take on this kind of workload, so maybe I should be able to do that as well. No. Just think about yourself, especially in a situation like this. We all respond differently to various stresses. Stresses like the COVID situation have a different effect on everyone. So you need to have an approach, again, self-awareness, an approach that is appropriate for you. So, you define your goals. And I think when you define your goals and the behavior changes you need to get there, and you consistently start demonstrating these behaviors, they then become your workflow, right? Your practice, your routine, and you will see change. Super powerful. I'm not saying this is a method for everyone, but I have really found it's helped me when I've been stuck or when I'm struggling to step up to the next level. And, if you're listening and you're unsure, try it. Like what have you got to lose? You've got time. So just have a crack at it. And, if you want, customize it and tweak it as as you need. But what's important is, you're aiming for the 30 days, you're aiming for the 60 days of achievement and consistency. And remember, setting really achievable goals, achievable targets. So, I don't know, let's say that you want to exercise more, right? I mean, I know a lot of people have taken to running of recent. Let's say, right, every day I'm going to just run around the block, and you wake up one day and it's grey outside and it's miserable and you can't be bothered, Okay, so what can we do about that? Well, maybe you can go for a walk, or maybe you can go for a short run. Let's split your running distance in half, or just go and sit outside. Just get out of the door. Like, set the bar really low, like make it as easy for yourself as possible, and then you're more likely to do more. Whereas if you set the bar too high, who knows whether you're going to actually like pick that up when the going gets hard. So once you're there, it's just going to be so much easier. It's these little hacks, If you want to go to the gym in the morning and that is your goal, then put your running kit next to your bed so you can literally just get up and pretty much go, your gym kit, sorry. Make things easy for yourself. The fact that you've also thought about it and done those prerequisite steps makes it harder to fail. And when you have those positive associations in your body, that's how you're going to start doing harder and harder things. When you get accustomed to those positive associations happening, you're not getting burned from the failure. You're getting, the wins from every time that, I've made my bed, build on that, build on that, build on that. Yeah. You want to make it as easy as possible for yourself. All right. Remember, you're exercising a muscle, you're building stamina, right? Starting small prepares you for taking on bigger and harder tasks, and it takes a while to do this. In my own personal experience, I don't think I've achieved anything incredible yet, but I'm building. For me, I used to work in a retail job, and I really, really struggled when it came to talking to people. When I first joined, I could not speak to people. I had that job for around 6-7 years, and I built up my people skills. Eventually gained the confidence to speak on stages, to teach classes, and to do this podcast, for example. A lot of the people I speak to on this podcast I've never met before. There was a time for me when meeting strangers was a very intimidating thing. And it's satisfying, really satisfying to look back where I was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, or however long, and seeing the process. And it literally happens by this process of, breaking things down into smaller steps. The other thing that's worth doing as well is when you get comfortable with setting these goals, think about, again, going back to intuition, why you want to do these things. Strengthen that muscle that is your intuition. Episode 1 with Ben Molyneux, we talk about this, where, again, in line with setting goals, you think of something big. I want to buy a house. Okay, well, why? All right, I want to have a place for myself. Why? What's that doing? It's giving me a sense of pride. Really feel into why you want these things. Don't be doing it because you saw someone online on Instagram or on YouTube in a video that was doing these things. Do it because you really want to do it. Because I think that when we see these ideas online, it's all very idealistic and it looks really cool and looks really easy. But a lot of the time these things look better than they actually are. I mean, hey, definitely try stuff, but I think it would be better that it comes from a sense of that's something I can really feel myself aligned to, and work backwards from the goal. I want to join a band. Why? I want to play in front of an audience because it's empowering. You can follow that, and you can find new avenues, new things that inspire or interest you. I want to go to Thailand because, I don't know, you want to see beauty. Let's take Thailand, for example. Amazing. Let's put that as a year goal, or a goal that we'll achieve in 5 years' time. What kind of steps do we need working backwards from that goal? Well, we're going to need some money. How much money? How much does it cost? Well, we need to work that out. It's something we can do in a day. We're going to need to do some research, where to go and what to do. I think, if you're struggling to get things done at any time, it is literally just a case of breaking it down. mind map it if that aligns with you. Thailand at the top, how long we want to go for, research the area, how much is it going to cost. We think of the cost, we can break that down. Okay, so it's going to cost X. I need to save, I don't know, £100 a month for 12 months. Do we need to work some extra shifts? Do we need to land a new client? These can all be broken down into smaller and smaller goals. But achieving those smaller goals brings you closer to where it is you want to be. And then all of a sudden, we're doing, as they say, eating the frog, eating the whole frog. We're just one bit at a time. Like, it's literally what we're doing. So look at where you want to be and work backwards. Do you want more clients? What do you need to do to get those clients? Do you need to have meetings? Do you need to do more social media posts? And we work backwards from there. Anyway, you get the idea. But genuinely, I really do think this is a big game changer. And if you haven't tried to apply it in this exact way, I definitely say have a go. It's a big game changer. The thing is consistency. And you know what? I'd be genuinely interested if you've done this for, I don't know, 60 days and it hasn't worked, like, drop me a message. Like, let's figure something out. Let's talk. Because I've very much been in these situations where I felt that there's a lack of information or guidance, and I've had to strip things back, start out from basic stuff when I want to learn something new. These are skills and strategies and stuff that they don't really teach you in school. And I don't know, some parents might teach you, but not everyone's may have, presented it in a way that speaks to you or that's appropriate for your learning style or your personality type or your attitude or your values. So here you are. And if this resonates with you, that's awesome. I really do hope you found this helpful, and, I wish you all the best. So yeah, that was this mini episode. If you do like these mini episodes, let me know. I've got some ideas for some more, but feel free to suggest some topics that you'd like discussed. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next week with a new interview in our traditional format. But until then, take care, and I'll see you again on the Creative Venture Podcast.